you ever wondered what would happen if you could buy a piece of time? Not a watch, not a calendar, but an actual moment in history. This isn't science fiction. It's the incredible and ultimately cautionary tale of Chrono-Voyages Ltd., the company that invented temporal tourism and nearly broke reality with its revolutionary business model. Imagine a world where the past is no longer just in books. It's a destination. Chrono-Voyages made this possible. They cracked the code to stable, reliable time travel. Suddenly, you could walk the streets of ancient Rome, witness the signing of the Declaration of Independence, or see dinosaurs roam the earth with your own eyes. The demand was astronomical. But how do you sell something as infinite and intangible as time? This is where their genius and their downfall began. Chrono-Voyages didn't sell tickets. They sold temporal timeshares. Think of it like a vacation property, but instead of a condo in Florida for 1 week a year, you own a specific moment in history. For example, you could buy a timeshare for April 14th, 1865 at Ford's Theater. You have the exclusive right to visit that specific place at that specific time for a set duration, say 1 hour. The brilliance of this model was that the asset, the moment in time, was non-depleting. After your hour was up, the moment was still there, pristine and untouched, ready for the next timeshare owner to use. It was the ultimate renewable resource. Chrono-Voyages could sell the same moment thousands, even millions of times over. This created a financial security unlike anything the world had ever seen. The underlying asset was literally history itself, perpetually reusable. Their initial public offering was a massive success. Investors flocked to buy shares in Chrono-Voyages, seeing the infinite profit potential. The company's valuation skyrocketed into the trillions. They sold timeshares for everything: the construction of the pyramids, Leonardo da Vinci painting the Mona Lisa, the first Olympic Games. The market was booming. People weren't just buying experiences, they were buying investments. A timeshare for a key historical event was seen as a blue-chip asset, more stable than gold. But there was a flaw in their perfect system, a variable they hadn't accounted for: human nature. The company had strict rules, of course. The first rule of Time Travel Club was don't interfere. You were an invisible, intangible observer. You couldn't touch anything, talk to anyone, or leave anything behind. You were a ghost in the machine of history. For decades, this system worked flawlessly. The past remained stable, and the profits rolled in. The trouble started small, in a place you least expect. Not with a major historical event, but with a relatively obscure art market in 17th century Amsterdam. The Dutch Golden Age was a popular destination for tourists, particularly the Tulip Mania period. Timeshare holders loved watching the frenzy, the bizarre speculation over flower bulbs. One tourist, an amateur art historian, visited a small, unknown painter's studio in 1636. He saw a beautiful, yet unremarkable, still life painting. Back in his own time, he did some research. The painter died in obscurity, and the painting was lost to history. On his next trip, he visited the studio again. He loved the painting. On his third trip, a thought crossed his mind. The rules said you couldn't interact, but the technology wasn't perfect. There were micro fluctuations, tiny temporal ripples. What if he just looked at it with a little more focus, a little more admiration? He told his friends in an online forum for Chrono-Voyages enthusiasts. Soon, a small cult of fans developed around this forgotten artist. Dozens, then hundreds of timeshare holders started booking visits to this specific studio, all to gaze upon this one painting. They didn't touch it. They didn't speak. They just admired it. But in the quantum realm of time, observation has an effect. The collective focus of hundreds of tourists from the future, all directed at this single object, began to create a subtle resonance. Back in the 17th century, the artist, a man named Hendrik van der Meer, started to feel it. He couldn't explain why, but he felt an unusual sense of importance while painting that particular still life. He spent more time on it, used better pigments, and felt a strange, inexplicable confidence in his work. When he put it up for sale, something strange happened. A local merchant, who normally wouldn't have given it a second glance, felt an inexplicable pull towards it. He bought it for a slightly higher price than usual. The ripple had begun. As more and more tourists from the future visited, the painting's historical significance began to grow. The collective observation was like a low-level, almost psychic energy, imbuing the object with a perceived value that wasn't there before. In the present day, art historians started noticing anomalies. A previously unknown painting by a minor artist was suddenly appearing in the inventories of major collectors throughout history. Its provenance was rewriting itself in real time. The price of the painting in historical records began to climb. This created a feedback loop. As the painting became more famous in the present, more tourists wanted to travel back to see it being created. This increased the observational energy, which in turn made the painting even more significant in the past, further increasing its value in the present. Chrono-Voyages market analysts were baffled. The timeshare for Hendrik van der Meer's studio, once worthless, was now one of the most sought-after slots on the platform. Its price exploded. This was the world's first and only accidental historical asset bubble. They weren't just speculating on the future value of an asset, they were actively creating its past value. The bubble grew uncontrollably. The Van der Meer painting became the most famous work of art in history, eclipsing the Mona Lisa. Its value became so immense that it started to warp economic history around it. The family who first bought it became incredibly wealthy, creating a dynasty that altered the course of European finance. Wars were financed differently. Empires rose and fell on the back of this single, supercharged asset. The historical timeline began to fray. The changes were no longer subtle. Major events that were staples of Chrono-Voyages' catalog started to become unstable. The temporal stress was immense. The company's systems, designed to maintain a stable past, were going into meltdown. They tried to shut down access to the 17th century Amsterdam timeshares, but it was too late. The bubble had become self-sustaining. The painting was so famous that its own legend was now the primary source of its value. Then, the crash came. A team of temporal physicists at Chrono-Voyages realized the danger. The quantum entanglement of the painting was reaching a critical point. The timeline couldn't handle the paradox of an object whose value was based on its own future observation. The entire financial structure of Chrono-Voyages, built on the idea of a stable, unchanging past, collapsed overnight. As the timeline violently corrected itself, the Van der Meer painting was erased from history. It had never been significant. The painter died in obscurity, as he was originally supposed to. The dynasty it created vanished. The altered history snapped back to its original state, and with the erasure of the asset, the entire temporal timeshare market imploded. Trillions of dollars in virtual assets, all based on moments in time, evaporated in an instant. Chrono-Voyages Limited went bankrupt. The world was plunged into a global financial crisis, not because of stocks or bonds, but because a group of tourists liked the painting a little too much. The story of Chrono-Voyages serves as a powerful parable. It shows how even with the most incredible technology, the most brilliant financial models can be undone by the unpredictable nature of human behavior. They managed to monetize the past, but they forgot that the past, present, and future are all connected in ways we can't always predict or control. They sold time, but ultimately, time itself was the one thing they could never truly own. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy deep dives into fascinating concepts like this, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more. See you next time.